Hey everyone. Yes, I am back. Michelle Malkin is back. Not that I ever left, but I know that so many of you have been wondering, where is she? Where is she? Um, I took essentially a hiatus, especially from the controlled, toxic environment of Facebook. So hadn't been posting there. Occasionally people would see me in comments, and other people would share links to my weekly column, which you can't share if you use links to uns.com, my new primary home. Well, not new, it's been several months now, but you can still find all of my written work at michellemalkin.com, which then links over to my work and all of the embedded citations, graphics, documents that I've always loaded up all of my online columns with. Now, of course, at uns.com or michellemalkin.com, but you can't even say unz.com and link to it on Facebook, which is absolutely absurd and ridiculous. And of course, in keeping with the theme of today's live stream, which is the latest escalation of deplatforming of conservative dissidents and anybody who is right-minded, whether you spell that with a lowercase r or a capital case R. Hey everybody, I'm going to try and keep up with all of the comments here. I had teased this live stream on Facebook. I know that a lot of people were excited to hear from me again, and I am so excited, of course, to see all of you. For now, it appears that this live stream is on Facebook and YouTube, which I rarely use anymore either. But the subject of this stream is important enough that I am dipping my toe in a big way back into social media and in general corporate media and that whole world, way beyond what I have been doing, just happily filing my weekly columns and working more behind the scenes. People are asking, well, how come we don't see you on mainstream corporate media anymore? In part, it is largely because of my own choosing and walking away. I know that's a favorite phrase of many of my conservative friends, walk away, but it is something that I have done my entire life when I believed that the organizations that I'd been associated with were not comporting with my values. And I know that's really difficult for a lot of people to believe, that I would walk away from so many conservative, well-funded media platforms. But once you start saying no, it's easy to do so. And I have tried valiantly, of course, not always succeeded. I mean, you can go back and look at the course of my career, but tried very hard not to compromise my principles on that. So, if you follow my written work regularly, and my work is still carried on multiple platforms, dozens of newspapers, and online websites, and other conservative publications, you know that I revealed today in my syndicated column, which is carried by Creators Syndicate. Thank goodness for them. They've been carrying my work since 1999. And despite so many efforts to try and stifle my voice, they have stuck with me. And I'm eternally grateful for my friends at Creators Syndicate. In any case, you know that today I revealed that I was banned from Airbnb for speaking to a controversial, peaceful, legal group at a conference last November. And that group is called American Renaissance. I have many friends and many readers and viewers who follow their work, who also have participated in the conference in past years. And I was warmly welcomed at this conference last November and spoke on a number of topics, of course, that you should be allowed to talk about. One of the things I talked about, just parenthetically, is the corporate media whitewashing of Black on Asian crime that has skyrocketed across this country in every major metropolitan area, from LA to Seattle to Portland to New York City to Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. And because I spoke to this group, Airbnb notified me that it was canceling my entire account permanently unless I could show that I didn't speak there, which is ridiculous, and essentially treated me as a dangerous individual who affiliated with quote unquote hate groups and quote unquote white supremacy. So, for stating the plain and common sense fact that it should not be a crime to be white, it should not be a crime to say that it's ridiculous to deplatform people for simply tweeting it's okay to be white, for characterizing critical race theory, as I have done for a lot longer than many establishment types have on social media, that critical race theory is, in fact, bottom line, simply anti white curriculum. For all of that, I was kicked off of a company platform that has been treated as a public accommodation. And that's the key here. I'm not going to get into the legal weeds too much, but I wouldn't be taking on this fight unless I was convinced and lawyers were convinced that I had a strong case. This is not something I do lightly. I have spent so much of my career raising money for other people in their own battles, recognizing that their battles were battles not just for themselves and not just against a specific defendant, but that there were larger implications. And in this particular instance, in my battle, Michelle Fights Airbnb, of course, it's not just about me, because if you look at the context over the last couple of years, you can see where we're headed, right? It's not just about me. It's not just about Airbnb going after me for speaking to one controversial group. This is about the escalation of the deplatforming wars that are targeting all conservative dissidents. And as I said, whether you consider yourself a conservative, and increasingly that's a label that I won't even use anymore. If you're a dissident, if you are right minded, if you are right thinking, if you believe in the sovereignty of this country, if you believe in the sovereignty of your body and your children's bodies, if you defy the orthodoxies in this post George Floyd, post COVID tyranny world, then we're all at risk. And here's the twist. Here is something novel about my fight and the targeting of me for speaking at the American Renaissance Conference that certainly could have been predicted, but when it actually happens, it's just still as flabbergasting and gobsmacking to me, even though we could see what was coming. So not only was I dehoused, right, and deprived of equal access to public accommodations by Airbnb, but my husband, who didn't go to the conference, is not a public figure in any way, not a political activist, also was informed by Airbnb at the same time I was that he can no longer book anything. And look, not to get too sidetracked here, but it annoys me, okay, to read all of the snide little smug little comments from establishment people on both the left and right in response to my column that wah, wah, wah. On the one hand, well, Airbnb sucks anyway. What are you doing booking with them? And the other smug comment about, well, what about the gay wedding cakes? Oh, all of a sudden you have a different standard. Okay, all of those arguments are moronic, and I'm not going to use other words that I could use because I'm trying to be civil here, but like, don't be stupid, okay? Wedding cakes and desserts are different than the services that Airbnb provides. It has been treated as a public accommodation in the Oregon court system. And in California, which has broadly construed and liberal in all senses of the word, um, civil rights law at the state and local level, broadly construed even further than what the federal civil rights public accommodation laws and regime, which has been in place since 1964, provide. Um, Make it clear that there's something unique about equal access to fair housing and public accommodations as opposed to a dessert. Okay. It is not the same thing. And I think that this is a perfect case for exactly the kind of aggressive legal jujitsu that the establishment right has eschewed and has failed to engage in. And I'm not the only one that believes that this is a good case for that. Again, I want to stress that I wouldn't undergo all of this and take it on if I didn't have excellent top flight First Amendment lawyers who felt the same way. I have nothing to gain from this. Every single penny that I'm trying to raise on the crowdfunding campaign is going to go towards this fight. I've had a very blessed and privileged career over the last 30 years. I've stepped away over the last couple of years to take care of my family, to take care of my own health. I think, especially over the last couple of years, a lot of ordinary Americans have turned inward and and prioritized um, what's what's most important to them. So again, from both the establishment left and right, going to face the same stupid arguments that somehow this is all a grift, that I'm a phony, when it's the hypocrites and phonies who are now cashing in on pretending to care about cancel culture, who were the same ones who tried to cancel me a couple of years ago for talking to people that they didn't like and who threatened them. And of course, yes, I'm talking about broadly the America First movement, my young friends, yes, going to name check the Groypers. And so, look, whether it's Nick Fuentes or Laura Loomer or Jared Taylor or any of the people that I have stuck up for over the last several years, really decades now, dating all the way back to my first book, Invasion, and the many true America First patriots who were there to support my message. People like Peter Brimlow and the great folks at VDare, for example, and a lot of establishment types on both the left and the right who've tried to cancel me over my refusal to disavow, disavow, disavow. I mean, it has been an operatic leitmotif over the course of my career. So, this is a logical extension of the work that I've done, the principles that I've tried to embody and stand by my entire career. I have no idea where this is going to go. And by the way, you can go to fundly.com. The name of the campaign is Michelle Fights Airbnb. And if I can't meet the goal, then I'm not going to go forward with this. Lawyers are freaking expensive. And, if you're part of big corporate media and have some big philanthropic financial backing behind you, then this type of stuff is easy. But I'm relying on small dollar donors. And let's see, if I've got my math right, if 6,000 people just came forward and gave $25 each, I'd be able to move ahead with this. Like I said, I've already got First Amendment lawyers in place who are chomping at the bit to go forward with that. So we'll see where it goes. And even if that doesn't pan out, at the very least, it has been edifying for me after, the last couple of months of being quiet about this to let people know what's going on. I've said that, first it's me and it's guilt by association. And by the way, there have been many other canaries in the cancel culture coal mine before me, um, who've been deplatformed, debanked, dehoused. And I've done everything possible to give them shout outs every step of the way. For those of you who um, purchased and read and consumed Open Borders Incorporated, first of all, thank you for doing that. It's my latest book that came out in 2019, and it's dedicated to so many of the America First dissidents and patriots who've been subjected to exactly the kind of treatment that I'm talking about here today. And that includes Airbnb. If you read my column at michellemalkin.com and unz.com, in the Michelle Malkin archives on my front page right now on my website, you know that Airbnb since 2016 has had this woke company initiative to discriminate against conservative dissidents in the name of eradicating discrimination. But, that's the left wing way, isn't it? Let's see, what else did I want to tell you? You can go to my Twitter feed, such as it is, and it's interesting because, of course, it's been throttled at allegedly 2 million followers for the last 10 years. And nobody can ever see my tweets unless somebody who is acceptable retweets the tweets. But I've done a whole thread there that includes the screenshots from Airbnb's email from last November, a week after I spoke at American Renaissance, notifying myself and my husband that we were going to be treated essentially as dangerous domestic threats. And November was that week of the trip, was two incredible speaking events that I got to participate in. And one was the American Renaissance Conference, and the other one was a church militant protest at the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. And there, again, we have another case where the city of Baltimore tried to get away with discriminating against church militant and preventing them from holding a peaceful rally, even after they had initially obtained a permit for that event. So church militant and Michael Voris had to go to court and forced the city to retreat, and we're just very blessed to have a judge that actually adhered to the law and prevented that discrimination against their free speech, against their freedom of association. So as rigged as the entire system and this country is against us, every once in a while, the broken clock tells the right time and strikes correctly. So that was November. I continue to be able to speak to groups, and I wonder, of course, now if those groups will now be smeared through guilt by association, whether it's by Airbnb and its goon conspiracists at the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League. Okay, that's what this is really about. Because when you're fighting the big tech or big business company that is kicking you off, of course, you're not really fighting them, right? There's a shadow battle going on. And we all know who's really pulling the strings. Airbnb has been open, and you can see on all the left-wing articles about its ideological witch hunts to dehouse conservatives and America First dissidents, that it's SPLC's hate watch list, which, of course, any effective America First dissident is on, and like me, has been on it for years. I mean, ever since I wrote Invasion in 2002, those goons have been trying to stifle my voice. And so these battles are worth engaging because any opportunity we have to expose the special interests, the puppeteers that are uh, really the ones putting on this performative show is is worth doing, right? And the SPLC and a number of other radical left wing civil rights groups have been colluding with Airbnb on this woke agenda. Al Sharpton's National Action Network, the NAACP, and of course, Black Lives Matter. So it is worth noting that in 2020, Airbnb donated $500,000 directly to NAACP and the Black Lives Matter Foundation. Of course, all of their shady funding in the news again this past week. I know you all have been paying attention. Donated $500,000, and it's just this two-way street. This, I mean, it's an ideological money laundering operation, and we're the ones caught in the maw of all of that. So that's where we are. And by the way, speaking of where we are, I am actually in the Boise, Idaho area, and I will be speaking in the next couple of days to some wonderful grassroots folks. I will be tomorrow speaking to Idaho Chooses Life, and I will share more information about that on my Telegram channel, and I'll also put it in comments here if anyone happens to be in the Boise area. And on Friday, I will be speaking to a huge event with the Idaho GOP. These were both rescheduled from last fall when, yes, I got the C19. I'm completely unvaccinated, but now completely naturally immunized. And I know that this has been such a horribly oppressive time for so many of you, especially the young people out there. And as you all know, as a mom of two now adult children, 21 and 18, I understand the plight and the stress and the suffering of young people who are making huge sacrifices to live their principles and to defend their own bodily autonomy, to exercise their freedom of conscience, and so many who have been exercising their freedom of speech to defy the culture of compliance. And so I especially want to take a moment, and I'll be talking about this, of course, in my talks in Idaho, and any time anyone has a platform or an event for me to speak at. But this is the real time for choosing, right? Connick loves to cite Reagan's time for choosing speech. And it was a great speech, such as it was all of those decades ago, but it is time for a paradigm shift and a new reframing of a time for choosing. And the most important existential, fundamental choice that we have these days is between defiance or compliance, whether it's this deplatforming that I'm fighting in my battle against Airbnb, whether it's against all of the COVID tyranny, whether it's against the controlled opposition and the thought police on all of the matters that I have reported on over the last 30 years, race, immigration, the culture wars, education, all of it. Defiance or compliance, a time for choosing. So, look, I will keep you updated on my progress in this legal battle. I've had other legal battles that I've been dealing with as well. that I will tell you about. But I just want to balance this out now, and I'm going to spend a couple of minutes here trying to catch up with comments and answer some of your questions. But I just want to make clear here too that it's important, and I know that this has become clear to so many people over the last 2 years now, to take care of your health and your family. It's always been my MO to put my family first. And uh, the fact that so many of the evil people that I've battled over the last 30 years have dragooned my family into their agenda is what pisses me off. Pisses me off beyond belief. And I am not going to be silent about it. I am one of those mama bears, tigers, I don't know, pick your freaking animal. That is me when it comes to guarding and protecting my family. And you will regret it. And I fight this not just for my family, but the idea that these people could go after you and your children for practicing what you preach, for going out there and having the courage to voice your views. I don't care if it's about Black Lives Matter or Antifa or masks or vaccines or protecting our borders or defying refugee resettlement, whatever it is, pick your battle. The idea that you could be denied housing and that your husband and that your children could be swept into the woke dragnet is something I will not tolerate. What you permit, you promote, and we must not permit this. Defiance or compliance. Choose. Okay, that's I've got that all off my chest, and of course, I just want to say that keeping this all in perspective, finding joy where you can find it, and exercising control over your life where you can is so important. People know from my Instagram that I have been pursuing all sorts of self improvement. I think it's important. And I will tell the young people over and over again, work out, eat healthy, take care of your soul, take care of your body. Okay. So make sure you're doing that. And just as a side note, because I want to just keep this, a little bit lighter, I've started taking tap dance lessons. And if you subscribe to my Instagram, you can see my latest progress on that. To the extent that I even still have any of these stupid social media platforms, it is important. It is important to show the forces of evil that they cannot sabotage your soul, that they cannot rob you of your ability to be happy and to be healthy. Can I get an amen? Amen. Right? And I think probably this is what irks so many of my enemies and opponents, and it has over the last 30 years, that they can continue to call me a hate monger and a hateful person. And they can try very hard to capture screenshots and disseminate them on their propaganda channels, showing me angry all the time, right? You go to Google Images and it looks like I'm a perpetually angry person. But you all know me. You have followed me on Fox, on Newsmax, wherever, right? Over the last 30 years, I fundamentally am a happy, joyful, peaceful, law abiding, lawful person. And they are retaliating against me and my family, and you and yours by extension, right? For being peaceful Americans who love our country. who love our families. That's it. That's the bottom line. Okay. Um, Gee, I'm so sorry for all the people who've been bombarding me with questions before, but I don't have a producer. It's always me just flying solo. And so I'm just looking at comments now. Somebody says one word, pickleball. Yes, I love pickleball. It is true. Kevin Green says, go to Frank's speech, please. Yes, they have been so wonderful. I've done appearances with Brandon House many times over the last several months. And of course, hosted and moderated America's Frontline Doctors Summits I think it was in Tennessee, I think it was in Tennessee last fall, that were broadcast on Frank's Speech and Lindell TV. So I will be talking about my battle on their show and some others coming up. Kaiser Rev says, I can't wait for AFPAC 3. Oh, yes. Can't wait. That's at the end of the month. And you can go to the America First Foundation website if you happen to be in Orlando, Florida. At the end of the month, come join, get tickets. I think they're almost sold out or nearly sold out. So hurry, hurry, hurry on that. Let's see. What is your Instagram ID? Good question, because it's not Michelle Malkin. It's actually Miss Triple M, and I'll spell it for you. MISSTRIPLEEM. Miss Triple M. Those are my initials. Somebody wants a quick recap for people who joined in late on my battle with Airbnb. That is a good idea. Thank you, Jason K. If you're just joining in, the subject of this live stream was my latest syndicated column where I revealed that Airbnb has banished both my husband, my poor husband, and myself as retaliation for speaking at a conference held by a group called American Renaissance last November. And you can get all of the details about this escalation in the deplatforming wars at my website, michellemalkin.com, which redirects to my entire archive at uns.com. All of the citations are embedded there on the legal arguments, some of the legal arguments that are being made, and the backstory of Airbnb's war as part of its woke company initiatives to purge what is essentially a public accommodation, which is covered by local, state, and federal civil rights law, to purge this public accommodation of anyone who disagrees with their pro-Black Lives Matter, pro-woke, pro-Antifa views. I mean, yes, I mean, they are pro all of those things. So I'm raising money for this legal battle. Every single penny will go towards that battle. And you can find the crowdfunding campaign. It's linked at my column at michellemalkin.com. Or for those of you who can type very fast, I'll say it slowly. Fundly, FUNDLY.com/Michelle Fights Airbnb. Somebody's got to do it. There have been many people before me who have found themselves in the same situation and not done anything about it. So why not me? If not now, when? If not me, who? So that's that. Let's see. Hang in there, Michelle. Venting is good, George Adams says. Thank you. Of course, it is a constructive vent because I'm actually doing something about it. And of course, I've always been an action advocate, not just a venting advocate. And actually, that makes me a little nostalgic because those of you who were with me back in the hotair.com days when I was doing a daily video, remember that the name of that daily video was called Vent with Michelle Malkin. Ha ha. Get it? Vent, hot air. Ha 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 ha. I know y'all have been missing my corny punny humor. Let's see. Couple more comments and then I'm going to close this out. Let's see. Is it time to leave YouTube? DC says. Well, of course, I've had multiple strikes against my channel for all of the videos that I've done since the beginning of the scamdemic plandemic, with many of the leading lights who have fought battles that are now reaping great fruit. You can still go to that channel and see my interviews with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from 2 years ago, Judy Mikovits and Kent Heckenlively, authors of The Truth About Masks. And of course, Judy, one of the first to sound the alarms about phony Dr. Anthony Fauci, junk science king. And oh my gosh, Simone Gold, who I spoke with a year ago about the deleterious effects on fertility of the you know what's. You know, I don't have to spell it out. Who knows? I mean, the way that these algorithms work, merely saying the things could, is probably going to get my another strike on Facebook or YouTube, but mind meld, you know what I'm saying. And oh, thank you, Josh O'Connor. Yep, your informed consent video was priceless. Thank you. I also had a fabulous interview that is still up. I'm probably giving a list to all the YouTube censors of all the videos that are going to be zapped tomorrow, but what the hell, right? With Jeremy Hammond on the truth about the flu shots, which I have refused to take for decades now. And I know many of you probably feel the same way. It is a huge white pill and hugely encouraging that so many people's eyes have been opened in the last couple of years, not only to the you know what jabs, but more generally to big pharma's harmful products and the propaganda, rigged randomized controlled trials, the entire clinical trial corruption, all of it. And that's another, hugely important piece of investigative work that I did. Unfortunately, squelched and stifled and largely ignored on the corruption of the original clinical trials for the you know what's. But if you go to my archive at unz.com, you can find my entire series on the corruption of the clinical trials. Carl Halsey or Halsey says, I've missed you so much. It seems like big tech is trying to keep us apart. You are amazing. Thank you so much. That is definitely true. Divide and conquer is their strategy. And this latest escalation with Airbnb, I really hope all of you will spread the word to the extent that you can. Look, I know a lot of you completely abandoned these platforms, and of course, Gab.com is fantastic. Telegram I use for sort of just like its ease and convenience. There are other so-called alternative platforms out there, but I'd be very wary of them because many of them are controlled op sites themselves that are banning many of my friends in the name of trust and safety. Looks like they're copying and emulating the very big tech forces they say that they're opposing. Buyers beware, consumers beware. Can you repeat the Airbnb story again for those of us that came in late? Okay, I'm just going to say one more time. I'll just do it. Okay, look, go to michellemalkin.com, read my column, then go to the fundly.com/MichelleFightsAirbnb site. You'll get all the details. But look, in a nutshell, I'm being retaliated against for my journalism and my activism. And not only am I being retaliated against by Airbnb, SPLC, and ADL, but my husband's account, my husband who didn't even go to this conference, who's not a public figure, who's not an activist, is not in the public eye, also had his entire account deleted permanently in this bodes very ominously for anyone who considers themselves right minded, because not only you, but your children, your spouses could be targeted in a similar way. And if we don't draw the line here, you know what's going to happen. You know where we're headed. Uh, we're already experiencing vaccine apartheid, right? Vax apartheid, mask apartheid, all of it. And this is a test, and it is separating the wheat from the chaff. Which are you? Defiance or compliance is the theme this year of all of my talks that I'm giving, every last appearance that I'm able to have. This is the new time for choosing in 2022. And I defy. I defy. And I hope every morning that you will wake up and look in the mirror and say those two words to yourself too. I defy. All right, so I'm going to close it out there. If you're coming in late, sorry, I didn't give enough. Maybe I didn't give enough advance notice, but look, leave comments for me on FBook, FBook, and YouTube, and let me know if you want me to, go back to doing these regularly. I can't promise anything. Got a lot on my plate. But if you're in the Boise, Idaho, come see me tomorrow with Idaho Chooses Life, Friday at the Idaho GOP. And if you're a college campus conservative and want me to come speak, and don't want to do it through the Con Inc. establishment groups that have banned me, you can contact me directly, Michelle Malkin Investigates at protonmail.com. That goes for any local activist groups that would like to have me as well. And last thing I'll say is the most important work that I'm doing now is the written work at michellemalkin.com, which redirects to uns.com, which is not allowed on Facebook. But go there and just follow my work there. If your newspaper has not picked up my column, ask them why not. To the extent that anybody even reads newspapers anymore. And as always, stay tuned. Onward, keep up the good fight, and God bless you all.